our son passed, and we had fought for funding so we could bring him home. We had fought for funding to get the right equipment, and everything was a fight. Everything was a struggle. Everything was a no. Everything was complicated. World seems like everything is falling apart when it feels hopeless, when like your circumstances are out of your control and you don't have a way out and there isn't a cure. I just want to be able to bow my head and give thanks.
Because I was there and I stayed in that blanket of sadness. I stayed in there. But you found a way to be like, no, we're going to shake it off. You had a path with Hot Ronnie.
I don't want it to be sad and depressing. I don't want the life that my son had to just be like he's alive, but he's not living. And the biggest thing that I found is movement brings clarity. And that brings clarity for my heart and for my head of just like, you know, the day is messy and crazy. You have your fitness, you go for a walk, you go to the gym, you turn on some great music. Everything that looks horrible can look good again. Everything that looks impossible, you can see possibility. And so for me, movement isn't just like, oh, this is something I have to do. It's the very thing that keeps me moving forward.
Welcome to another episode of The Mind of a CEO. And today's guest, guys, I've read a lot of personal development books. I have done the whole thing, and her book moved me. I just couldn't put it down. I was so moved and inspired. Our guest today is the author of the book, Bring the Joy, listening to the nudges of your life, of your heart. She's a philanthropist, a serial entrepreneur, and most of it all, she's a devoted wife and a mother of 3.
Thanks for remembering the 3. That means a lot to me.
Yes. I saw that. I was like, I was going to clarify with you, but I was like, you know what? I see that. I'm going to follow through with that. Yeah.
It's actually one of the most awkward questions that I get because people say, how many kids do you have? And then I always say 3. And then they'll say, what are their ages is usually the next question that's followed by. And you're like, ooh, man, do I want to get into this one? And most people are uncomfortable. Most people are pretty good with it, but it does make the conversation sometimes awkward for people on the other end.
Yes. And I didn't even intro you fully. Our guest today is Jessica Janzen. Let's give it up. Come on.
Hello.
Woo, let's
Thanks
go.
for having. This is me. I was like, I'm about to be like, action. Let's go.
Let's go.
CEO. And I just got to like take a beat. But he's a fitness guy. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to come in my fitness gear because today isn't crazy now. He's looking sharp and I look like I just rolled off the streets.
I love it. I didn't get the memo though. I was trying to flex up too. You know?
We should have texted.
I missed that memo. No, I want to jump right into it. First of all, I loved your book. It was so incredible and so inspiring. My wife and I would have talks about the chapters that I was reading every night. I felt so moved, but I want to talk right. There's the number one question that I had. Okay. How your book is all about nudges, right? Listen to the nudge in your heart. And I was like, okay, how do you know when this is the right nudge? Because in life, you could be driving straight and you take a left, right? And you could end up at the wrong spot, or you take a right and everything is going right. How do you know this is the right nudge to follow through with?
In all the years I've been doing interviews and podcasts, I've never been asked that question. But the thing that instantly comes to my mind, because it's this exact answer, is I think when you start to overthink decisions, that's not following a nudge. Because like a nudge is like that immediate thing, like go do the thing, or like you have the idea. And I think the nudges that we're supposed to take action on also don't go away. So I had all these nudges. And an example personally in my relationship with my husband, Hot Ronnie. Hot Ronnie. Man, that man put me through the ringer.
Oh my goodness.
And now I'm putting him through the ringer. So it's all good. Yeah. But in that, I had all these nudges like, this is the guy that you're meant to be with. This is the guy that to invite to church. This is the guy you got to keep pursuing. And there was moments when the nudges, I was like, WTF, this does not feel like I'm in the right spot. It's awkward. It's hard. It's messy. It like you're in the middle of it. But the nudge never went away, and I just kept having that resounding voice. And so I think nudges, small ones, like open up the car door for somebody, hold the door for the older lady.
Yes.
At the airport, I travel a lot. I'm in the airport almost every week. And it's weird to talk to like random strangers, especially like you pass so many people.
Yeah.
But there's lots of amazing people in the airport, and it'll feel so random. But I'll go up to women who I'm like, girl, that travel outfit is fly. And people are like, what? And I'm like, yeah, the outfit's amazing. We met this old lady, and she was dressed so beautifully, like well put together, just like an elegant, classic, beautiful, just like a grandma.
Yeah.
But I just went up to her, I'm like, girl, you just got to know, like, you are the best dressed person in this airport. You look absolutely stunning. And she was so taken back. And so those nudges that we get, like really small ones, don't overthink it. It feels awkward in the moment, doesn't feel comfortable. You just got to act on it. And then even the big nudges about like who to pursue as a relationship, what business to start, what business decision, like do we expand here? Do we take this part of the business away? I think we know, but we're just so worried it's going to be wrong. So we spend time in indecision, and the nudge doesn't go away, and it always leads you on the right path.
Yes, it always leads you on the right path. It's so impactful what you just said, because you said when you start to overthink the nudges, right? That's usually not the ones which you move forward with. That's a big tip right there. And then you talked about when it's a true nudge, it never goes away. It just keeps coming back and until you make that decision. That is incredible. And then you talked about Hot Ronnie. When I was reading the chapters, and I was like, yo, this girl is determined. Damn. I couldn't believe it. My ego was hurting for you. I was so invested.
You're like, give up.
Just let it go. Let the man breathe. Now, that leads to a question that I have further on, but I want to touch on that right now.
Yeah.
What gave you that faith, that belief that, you know what, he's going to be ready to accept the love that I'm giving to him? Like there were moments, like I was reading it, there were moments after moments. I was like, she's going to leave him now. Like let the guy go.
Like, how does she not get the sign that this is not meant to be?
It might not be, but like your faith and belief that, no, this is the man I'm supposed to be with. Where did that even come from? How did you keep that going on even when things started and things weren't going as well? And I think this answer right here is very important for all of the married couples, because marriage is hard, right?
Oh. So you got 4 kids. Marriage goes extra hard. Every kid you add to the mix, right?
Yeah.
It's no longer just like you and your partner. Then it's like all the people you got to take care of. There was something about Hot Ronnie that was different for me in any other relationship that I'd ever been in. And I think part of that was, the very first thing was, I felt complete as myself. And I think people use like, you complete me. Like, I'm kind of like vomit on that, because if you're waiting for someone to complete you, they're always going to disappoint you and let you down. And then you'll always have gaps of not being complete. And for me, I'm a person of faith, but I'm like, I was complete and whole just as Jessica. So I wasn't waiting for that piece to lock in and then be the piece. The best part is that like, I wanted someone to do life with me. I wanted someone to like witness and be a witness to my life. And there was something different about him that I was like, man, I just want like that type of person to do life with. And the biggest thing that I can attribute to was his heart. It was like his heart was so good. And I mean, the guy did not dress that great when we first started dating. I'll be honest. He wore Tommy Bahama shirts, weird white shoes, and these baggy whitewashed jeans. Like, just no.
It's stained in your memory. I could tell right now.
I was just like, so it wasn't like the stuff. And I mean, he didn't have the nicest car. He didn't have the most money in the bank account, but it was like his heart. Like, I saw how he cared and served for other people. And that for me was like, man, that's like, I want to be with somebody like that like sees the gap, that wants to serve, wants to help, and fills in. And so even when it wasn't going good or it wasn't like perfection, it was, I want like that type of person to be with. And I had never met anybody like him. And he just made life so fun. And so I just had this like incredible peace that like he was the person I was meant to be with. And so I was like, all right, God, I'm going to trust you in this one. It feels real messy and I'd love to quit right now. And it was like totally reassured because I had this Costa Rican like Spanish lover.
I was gonna get
and
to
I was
that.
like, yeah, I was like, man, this is not what I signed up for in terms of like, it just didn't feel right. And I had some friends call me out on it and they're like, are you sure? Like his name was Carlos and bless, he's a lovely man. There's nothing wrong with him. But they're like, are you sure this is God's best for you? And you know when you have like red flags, but you don't want to tell anyone about the red flags because you want so desperately for the thing that you're working on to work.
Yes.
So you're like, no, it's meant to be. No, I believe it. But there's red flags. And we don't take action on the red flags. And I finally got quiet enough. And I think I'm grateful that Ronnie interrupted because it was also like alarm bells being like, that's not the right direction. That's not God's best for you. And so I listened to the red flags with Carlos being like, man, this isn't, I think you could make it work. I could make a marriage work with you. Like I could make it work with Beryl, the guy who's recording this. No offense, Caitlin, his wife is also here.
Like, I saw a fit clench up real quick.
Yeah, she's like, hey, I'm coming after you. But like marriage is a choice.
Yeah.
And I think some of us are fortunate enough to get our soulmates.
Yes.
And then I think some people settle. And I think some people along the way just grind it out and they can make it really great. And some people grind it out and it's just average. But marriage is a choice. And I was just fortunate to be patient, wait for the best person. And it wasn't the stuff that he brought to the relationship. It was his heart. And I wanted a piece of that.
Wow. You wanted a piece of that. So my mind started rolling when you talked about red flags. Like when we see those red flags, but we don't want to admit it. Mm-hmm. And we're just telling people about the good stuff. Now, having said that, wow, and this we're not trying to make a spoiler alert. Please read the book. If you're struggling out there, you're going through a hard time, I'm telling you, this book was so inspiring and it moved me. I literally was looking forward to it. And it's hard for me to read a regular book. I listen to audiobooks.
Yeah.
And I was so hooked on. Okay, back to the question is this. Those red flags with Costa Rican guy, red flags. There was also red flags that you might have seen or some might have seen with Hot Ronnie. And I love that we keep calling him Hot Ronnie too.
That's his name.
Yeah. But like, how do you know, and I'm talking about just in relationships, in business relationships, in partnerships, how do we know, all right, this is a red flag that we shouldn't move forward with, or this is something that they're in process, they're in healing, they're in growth. How do you differentiate about that? This was not in my questions, but we're speaking about it.
This is so great. And I just want to encourage anyone out there in a relationship. I think there is that question of like, yeah, there's red flags. And then there's like, man, this person just sucks in this area, or they need growth in this area, or they struggle in this area. And I'll give a little teaser of the book. Obviously, I appreciate all the plugs. Thank you. We worked really hard on it. But my husband was an alcoholic and a drug user, and he had a big overdose. And I had someone in our circle of faith saying, ooh, like once a user, always a user, like alcoholics never get free from this. And that is the case for some people, that they can't break free of the addiction.
Yes.
And my husband has done an incredible job of breaking free from the addiction. Not to say that he doesn't struggle. We haven't had our moments, and I haven't wanted to rip his balls off and like.
That is vicious, right?
Yeah,
there.
It is. It is very vicious.
Hurt me. Like the second you said
I
that,
could see you
like,
wincing,
like
ah. But in that, I've seen his heart and where he wants to go. And so
Amen.
I don't know if I can articulate, because I think that's such a personal choice.
Yes.
Of like what red flag, and there isn't necessarily a scale.
Mm-hmm.
But I think there's a piece of like, what are you willing to tolerate and not tolerate? I'll offer this piece of it, because some people might not be able to say, you know what, like I can't trust somebody that's like has that, colorful of a past. But what I will say is like, I have had very strict boundaries of what I'm willing and not willing to tolerate, and I haven't wavered from those. And because of that, Hot Ronnie and I, like, he knows like where there's a boundary and where it's like, no, like that's a no-go zone for me. And so I think because of that, things that might have been red flags or difficult challenges for us in a relationship sense, I knew, hey, I was okay with that. Like if he stumbles and falls, great. But like I have a zero tolerance for drugs. Like you touch it once, like that's a non-negotiable. We have children. I have a reputation. I don't do drugs. Like that's just a non-negotiable. He has not touched them one time since we've been together, never. And even now, like gummies are legalized and, the scene is, he won't touch it. And so I think it's about like, man, if there's things that could be red flags for somebody or, they're red flags for you, know your boundaries and then stick to those. And you can't just be like, I guess it'll be okay.
Yeah.
Oh, just this one time. Oh, I'm okay.
Don't compromise.
And I think that piece for me has ensured that I've protected my heart, but also protected our relationship.
Wow. That's I think that answers it right there. That's an incredible part of it. I'm thinking about this, right? With the red flags and the journey Hot Ronnie went through, right? Mm-hmm. One thing I really noticed, and I keep referencing the book because I was so impressed by it. I'm like, this person lives in Calgary. Your transparency, the power of transparency.
How I'll say anything or I'm not afraid.
So I was like, I wouldn't have put that there.
I would not put that in ink.
But could you explain about, first of all, how did you get this? Is this how you've always been? Is this something you've understand? Like it's like the Eminem, the 8 Mile. I'm gonna tell you my mess before you use it against me, kind of thing. But it's so empowering because I started putting that into my life. The second I was reading your book, I'm like, she's like, all right, this is it. Look, boom, and like, what is that about? Like, how can you? Yo, you're writing now. Oh, you're downloading something. Okay, let's go.
It was exactly that. I mean, I grew up listening to country and very like small bubble world. But you said the 8 Mile reference of like, he's like, no, I'm just going to put my mess on display before you can use it against me. And I don't think that any of my mess that I've ever thought about people using against me, but I also just know like I'm not the only one that's done dumb things. And like we all have our journey and our piles of messiness.
Yes.
Like in business, man, the people that are struggling like financially, like this is just me. I was like, God, I'm like, we got a mortgage payment coming out. Like, like I'm not the only one that's like, but we're all trying to make it look good. I'm not the only one that's like in their marriage. I'm like, man, this is just a season where it's dry. Yeah. It's just a season where it is difficult to love you and you're hot and your style is a whole lot better than it was when I first met you. Do you know what I mean? Like not every day is like, I want to jump your bones and like, we're just on vacay and life is beautiful.
Yes.
And so I think for me being in a state of transparency, I don't feel like I have to hide anything. And there's something so freeing about not having to shelter or shield things where it's like, I'm not embarrassed by them.
Yes.
I think there's been a lot of shame and guilt about how you've missed the mark. But now I think recognizing how far I've come, it's just like, man, it's so freeing to just be like, oh man, yeah, I know that mess. Or, oh, this is what I'm struggling with right now. It's like, I'm grinding in it. And most recently, my book is called Bring the Joy. I'm a speaker. My whole business is built on joy. And I was in a season this summer where I was like, I don't feel a single piece of joy. I don't feel joy. I want to rip people's heads off. I'm jealous of people. I'm exhausted. And like the list just kept going on. Like, and then like you thought you'd have a win in business and it failed again. Like thought you'd have a win and failed again. And so you're just like, yep, there's no joy. And like my kids are healthy. I have an amazing, dedicated husband. I have like loving parents. I have great friends around me. But like all I could do was just be in the depths of despair. And I just felt like such a fraud and fake. And I finally just claimed it on social media being like, man, this summer I have struggled. This summer hasn't been. And last summer I was talking joy was oozing out of every pore in my body. Wow. So I was just like, summer's the greatest. Everything is amazing. Yeah. Like we went to the lake, the weather, I have a tan, I look good, I feel good. And this summer I was like, meh. And how freeing it was of just sharing your truth and not having to pretend and just be like, man, this is the mess I'm in. And I didn't need other people to be okay or not okay with it. I didn't need them to validate it. I just was like, I'm just going to share. And the amount of people that I've connected with or have resonated with it, I was just like, oh, I'm not the only one going through this. And so there's actually like community in that. And I think that part has just been so freeing for me.
Yes. That human connection, right? Because we all putting on a mask on social media, right? You see their highlights. And talking about business, and this is just a side note, but it made me think about it. You're a business consultant for a little bit, right? And you're still a coach right now.
Yep.
And I'm trying to get all these questions out because
I was like,
know,
you have
I
an
know,
hour.
I know.
I'm like,
yeah, I know.
And I showed up late. So let's just clarify. Like,
No, I was late too. We were all late. It's all good. You showed up on time. Now, when it comes to business, I was curious about your insights about that. What were some common mistakes you saw most businesses made, or like from that consulting role that you had, or what are some tips or that you could share with us?
I think the number one thing that I've seen with my coaching clients, with the businesses I've consulted with, and the businesses that I've worked in it, is that they're in denial of like where they actually are or what actually needs to be done. And then they take too long to implement and make the changes. I think that's particularly so in small business. The number one thing that I've seen is people don't know their numbers.
Yeah.
And
I struggle with that.
But I'm like, if you don't know your numbers, and everyone's like, oh, well, this part of the business, I've coached people. And then I'm like, okay, I know that you enjoy that side of the business, but is that side of the business being profitable? Because if there's something that you enjoy, if you're profitable, we can find a way to do the thing that you enjoy.
Yes.
But when you're looking at a business, you want to be able to continue on and to grow the dang thing, or to support your family, or to be able to, live out your dreams and your goals. And so if you don't have something that's making money, that's successful, how can you go and do and pursue those things and sustain it? And so that's probably the number one mistake that I've seen, is businesses being in denial about where they really are.
Where they really are.
Not knowing their numbers, and then being afraid to make the change because it means, I think they sometimes, especially in small business, we make it mean that there's something wrong with us, not just like, okay, I haven't looked at it from this perspective, or, oh, that's a way more efficient way.
Yeah.
Or we're so attached to it because when we made that decision 3 years ago, it was a big deal and a big decision. And so you are almost bringing your ego and pride into things.
Yes. So not knowing your numbers, right? Not knowing where you are. And I think that is a common mistake most people make with their fitness too as well, is not knowing, being in denial of where they really are. And they take so long to implement their actions and their habits. And speaking about fitness, in terms of routine, you talked about dancing and working out a lot in the books, and how did that help you through the trying times you went through, and just how has fitness played a role in your life to this day?
I'm really fortunate. I'm fully able-bodied. So besides having the hips of like a 90-year-old grandma, which is like my own dang fault for not doing more physio and the routines that I know I'm supposed to do to strengthen my glutes and all that fun stuff, I'm able-bodied. So for me to get up and go for a walk, super simple. For me to be able to go to a hotel gym or to move, super simple. And the biggest thing that I found is movement brings clarity. And that brings clarity for my heart and for my head, of just like, the day is messy and crazy. You have your fitness, you go for a walk, you go to the gym, you turn on some great music. Everything that looks horrible can look good again. Everything that looks impossible, you can see possibility. And so for me, movement isn't just like, oh, this is something I have to do. It's the very thing that keeps me moving forward. And we're gifted with these incredibly complicated bodies. And I hate like January 1, where now there's like this like trend that's like wants to buck the trend of like, it's not new you, new year. Like just how you are is perfect. And I actually started reading and downloading some of the science behind it, but the amount of cells that are reproduced in our body in a second, it's like insane. It's like hundreds of millions of new cells are being reproduced all the time. And I'm like, I don't ever want to just stay the same, because I don't believe we were designed to stay as a 1-year-old, as a 5-year-old, as a 20, or now I'm 41-year-old. Like I'm meant for growth. And that comes through movement. And so this piece of fitness is like, if you've been gifted a body that has the ability to move, why wouldn't we move it? And why wouldn't you want to be the best version? So when things come your way, you're ready to take action and not being in a position where you're like, I wish I could have, I wish I would have, if I was a little bit more this. And so my son, the disease that he passed away from robs the body of movement. So often when I don't want to go do a workout, or I'm not feeling it, or I'm just like, I could cancel. I think about my son. I think about the people in the hospital that are fighting a battle or a disease, a diagnosis that would give anything to go for the walk, to head to the fitness class,
Wow.
to like stretch it out in yoga. And so fitness is the very thing that has kept me moving forward and kept my head and my heart in check.
Yes, yes. No, speaking about that, about your son having SMA type 1, and do you want to speak a little bit on that to the audience, on just that ordeal?
Yeah, you can read all about it in the book, but this is now informs a lot of the work that my husband and I do, that we do with our charity. We started a charity foundation by accident. I do not recommend it. It's one of the number one questions like ask me, like, I want to start a charity. And I'm like, don't do it. It's insane. Because there's so much work that people don't see. They see the confetti cannons, they see the parties we host, they see the golf tournaments, and they don't see the endless phone calls and managing the books and the board meeting minutes and, financial reporting. But we started this foundation, Love for Lewiston, in honor of our son. It was an accident. We just wanted to raise $10,000 for the hospital to thank them, instead of having a pity party on what would be our son's first birthday party. We gathered with a fitness community at a boxing studio here in Calgary, and they gave us the space for free, and we jammed people in, like almost 200 people. You couldn't even walk in there. It was like this. It was like little sardines. I remember it was just so crazy. We had no idea what we were doing. And we just put out this massive vision that we had of like, come help us raise 10 grand. We had food and silent auction and live auction. We'd never done a live auction or silent auction. And we gathered people together. And at the end of the night, we calculated we had raised over $42,000.
That is incredible.
And there was a gap that we saw. Our son passed, and we had fought for funding so we could bring him home. We had fought for funding to get the right equipment. And everything was a fight. Everything was a struggle. Everything was a no.
Yeah.
Everything was complicated. I was like, what if we could just like remove the burden for people? What if we could just make it a little bit easier? Like, of course that person deserves a wheelchair that goes up and down and the back tilts if they're going to be sitting in it for 18 hours. Of course we want you to have an accessible van so you can get to and from and see friends and be in community. Of course we want you to have physiotherapy so that you can strengthen your muscles. But everything was a barrier, and so we saw a need. I saw how hard families were fighting. I saw how hard we had to fight. And I was just like, if we could make it a little bit better, why wouldn't we? And so we make it better for families that are fighting. And I want them to focus on being a family, not have to focus on like, how are we going to afford this next robotic walker that we need for our kid? Or how can we do another physiotherapy session because we don't have the funds? We had a family, they just wanted another manual wheelchair so their son could have it at school so he could get around and keep up with his friends. And he was denied by a bunch of funding. And so I was like, of course we want you to have a wheelchair. And he doesn't have the strength to lug it to and from his house. And so simple things like that can make a huge difference. And Love for Lewiston isn't a perfect solution. If I'm being honest, it's like a Band-Aid. But as much as we all want to change the world, it's like, what if we just change one person's life? And so that's what we're aiming to do at Love for Lewiston. And so we host some cool events. We raise money. The goal is about $600,000 every year. And then we pour it back into the spinal muscular atrophy community that Lewiston was a part of. There's lots of kids still living. There's now treatment. When our son was born and diagnosed, there was no treatment. Now there's 3. So kids that were dying are now living these full, abundant lives. And I want to be a part of that.
Amen to that. No, that's incredible. My family, like our second son, and us had us at the Children's Hospital too for a little bit. It was a scary time, so I could relate to when you were talking about just being in the room with hot Ronnie and having that quiet moment. And I remember being in the Children's Hospital and having that moment too with our wife and not knowing when we would leave the hospital, and that experience. And when you talk about getting inspired by all the kids and all there's a lot of hopelessness in that environment. And when you don't feel like moving and you reminding yourself about, I have an able body, I can do this, I can do that, that's incredible. And that leads me to my next question. Okay, there was a lot of summer moments right there, but like, there's one part in the hospital that when I was reading, I was like, how could you even think to do this? And it was when you talked to the they were telling you all these medical terms, and you talk to the doctors, the nurses, like, okay, no, this is what we're gonna be doing. We're gonna be dancing. We're gonna be make it more joyful because my son is terminal. We have to do this. How could you see the light to bring, like, being the coffee bean in that moment?
Yeah.
Because I was there and I stayed in that blanket of sadness. I stayed in there. But you found a way to be like, no, we're gonna shake it off. You had a pat with Hot Ronnie. I love that name. I wish my wife called me Hot Andreas all the time.
I know, right? Every guy that I meet is like, can my wife call me this? I was like, just start it. It's a thing now.
Yeah, put it to life. But like, how could you just look at him and be like, no, this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna make sure we're gonna bring joy to the workers. We're gonna bring joy to everyone. And then you stood up and acted on that and talked to the doctors and talked to the nurses. How I want to say how, but I'm thinking about the families that are in that position right now. What helped you think that? Like, I don't know how to word this question, so please help me.
Yeah, so let me jump in. An incredible book that I highly recommend, I've recommended to all my coaching clients, is by a gentleman by the name of Ryan Leake, who I'm determined to go and meet. He is, I think, one of the best speakers of our time right now. He just launched another new book called How to Work with Complicated People. And I follow his work and his podcast, but the last book that he wrote was 12 Questions to Help You Level Up. And one of the most powerful questions from the book, and I just read this book this year. So I didn't have this. This was 10 years ago, our experience with Lewiston. But when I read this, I was like, oh, it was like a light bulb moment. And I would offer this to other people because it's like, how did you know? How did you have the whereabouts to be like, hey, y'all, this is like, I'm just going to call a spade a spade. I would consider myself a natural born leader where I'm not afraid to be bold or assertive and put myself out there. But the question
JJ Hammer.
Sing it, JJ Hammer. And it's taken me a while to evolve my leadership style. I think great leaders are always evolving and growing. But the question that Ryan asked in the book, I think, is something that we can all ask ourselves is, what's it like to be on the other side of me? And you're like, okay. And I've thought about this. Like, for me in business, it's a good thing to be on the other side of me. I'm like, I'm here to serve. I'm great energy. Whatever you need, no problem.
Yep.
And then I started thinking about it in some of my friendships. I'm like, yeah, I'm a good friend. And then I like pump the brakes. I'm like, what's it like to be on the other side of me as like for my child, as a parent-child relationship on a Sunday when I'm stressed out about finances and no one's friggin' listening. It's not a fun place to be. I'm not like a fun person to be. Like, what's it like when the doors are closed and the cameras aren't on? And like, ask yourself that question, and it changes how you show up, because energy matches energy, and I don't want to match bad energy. Because like, I have the gift of knowing, like, I don't know how many more days I'm guaranteed.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm going to get till the end of this year or 2026, or like I get to celebrate 50 years of marriage with my husband. So like, I want to make these moments great. And because we had the gift of knowing that death was knocking at our door, they literally gave us a countdown clock. And I held out for hope that I was like, we're going to be the miracle story. We're going to have the miracle kid. He's going to be playing baseball. We're going to be watching Little League. And I'm going to be like, told you all, like, none of you doctors knew.
Yes.
Like, he's a living miracle. I prayed. I went to church. I tithed. I did the thing. So I was like, God, you owe me this. And
sound like Job.
And God was like, well, we have different plans for you. And I was like, oh, not what I wanted. He does that a lot. And I just know, like, I was just like, if this is all we got, I don't want it to be sad and depressing. I don't want it. I don't want the life that my son had to just be like, he's alive, but he's not living. And so I have a life, and I don't want to just be alive. I want to be living. And that's a question I would ask other people is like, if this is all you got, are you alive? Are you truly, fully, abundantly all you got living? And most of us don't live because we're too worried about other people's opinions of us.
Yes.
And so because we're worried, we hold back and we play small.
Wow. We hold back and we play small. And we're worried about other people's opinions, so we don't live.
I do too. I still do it in my own life where I'm like, I can't post that. Like, oh, people are going to think that's weird, or, oh, I should have posted that. The timing isn't right. Like, I still personally struggle with it. But then when I can get my head out of my ass and be like, whoa, whoa, you're worried about some stranger that you A, might not ever see, or B, has really no clue about your life and your ether and how hard you work and what it's like to do this on a daily grind. You're worried about their opinion or what they might DM you because it might not be conducive or it's out there, or if it's an outlier opinion. Like, how crazy is that? And so I have to remind myself, unless they're paying my bills, sleeping with my husband, and taking care of my babies, they do not get a say in my life. And I got to go do the thing, even if it's not what everyone else would do.
Yes. That it's so true, right? We care, especially with social media, right? It could be crippling sometimes for a lot of people. And back to fitness, it's one thing that holds a lot of people back, just so much information, and then they don't want to act, they don't want to start their journey, everything you're saying right now is amazing, and I just want to know about what role has faith played in all of this. You said you're a woman of faith, and I'm very curious about this because when we were at the hospital, that's like, and you guys too, that's all I could rely on, and there was that anger that I had for God. I was like, man, we're broke, we're here, why this, that? But later on, I did see the big picture, right? And but
what was the unlock for you?
It wasn't so much an unlock. When we were pregnant with our second kid, his bowels were out of his body while he was being formed in the womb, and our doctor looked at my wife and I in the eye and said, "You guys should have an abortion." And I looked at my wife and I was like, "No, we're not doing that." And she was like, "No way." And that was when it started, I think, because we just had faith. But through it all, being in the hospital, it was sad. But I realized at one point I was almost forcing myself to stay sad, right? And yeah, it was funny. And by the way, I was getting ready for my first bodybuilding show at the same time as well. And it was a very weird moment. And I think it took one time when I had a very blowout with a client, and I knew I was just hurt, and he looked at me and he didn't even get mad. He just knew I was in pain. And I remember going back. That's a good
client there.
Yeah, he's a beautiful client. And on my way back to the hospital that evening, I remember I was like, no, I cannot let my situation just spill out like that. I have to. And I just kept on reading. I kept on reading the book of Job. And because I was like, Job was actually a faithful servant. I wasn't. And I don't even have the audacity to say why me. Job did. You know what I mean? So I just stayed in the moment, and with time, healing came. He was 1 in 1,000 miracle that happened, and we are blessed. So I was curious for you, what role has faith played for you? And
it's everything. It's interesting. I have a family member that recently shared that they no longer believe in God, and they had been born and raised in the church, and grew up, and then they recently are just like, I don't see how it's possible. And I've had those questions. I would be lying if I hadn't been like, okay, is this all just hocus pocus? Like, is this all just a big cult? Like, what's going on? But like, I come back to, and I always say, my simplest answer is like, man, have a kid die, and then you'll really want to have a hope in something. And for me, I'm like, my hope is in heaven, and that has brought me so much peace. And so the faith aspect is like, things are just too wild and crazy to explain that like we just got here, like, or we just evolved from monkeys. Like, the way a body is designed, and like I think about the science behind some of this really cool stuff, and like, I mean, people are like, yeah, there's 20 meters or feet. None of this is true medical. I'm just like spewing some random stuff here, so don't take this for the gospel. But
no, like, this is the gospel.
Yeah. And so, but like, our intestines, they're like intertwined, and there's like feet upon feet upon, and I'm like, but I'm only 5'7". Like, how is there feet upon feet upon feet of, like, you think about how the complexity of it. I go, there's just no other way to explain this. And when I think about having a hope in something, and how beautiful the Christian faith, which is, it's a faith and it's a relationship with God, and he's just saying, love me and love other people. And we complicate it. And I go, I can get behind that. And he's saying, people are going to be messy. People are going to disappoint you. But I'm going to extend, you're going to be messy. You're going to disappoint me. But he says, I'm going to give you grace. And grace is unmerited, undeserving favor. And we all need it because we all are messy and all make mistakes. And so for me, it was just like having this peace and having unexplained belief that like it's going to be okay. And so I don't know if I can even explain it, but I can tell you when I'm at the end of my rope, I can put on a set of headphones and I can play a worship song and I can just know that like God has me carried in the moments that I can't carry myself. When I don't have the strength to go again, when I want to quit, when it looks like there's no way out, there's something about just being like, God, I'm giving this over to you. Amen. I don't know the how, I don't know the next step. And I attribute that to like a deep belief in him. And I think that's like what we want for each other. I talk in my keynotes a lot about, and most of it's for business people. Yeah. And so I don't go into the faith aspect of it because you are trying to appease to the masses. But it's cool when people say, oh, you're a person of faith, aren't you? You know, after I get off stage where you're like, I hope that I just live it out, that people see something different in me.
Yes, the light.
But the gift of like having belief, I show up better when people have belief in me. I think you probably show up better. Like if you were my coach and I was at the gym and you're like, no, you can't get to 4 more. There's no way. But like when someone's like, Jess, you got it. You don't quit on me. I'm going to see you through. I'm believing for you. Like there's nothing like having someone cheer you on. And humans will disappoint us, but there's a beautiful thing to have a relationship with God who says, I'm never going to stop believing in you. Yeah. And so for me, that was just like a game changer piece.
Yes. Never going to stop believing. And that's why I love that quote. You know, I actually wrote it out. It is when it was the last few lines of the pact you made with Hot Ronnie saying, yeah, God, we're praying for a miracle. We're hoping for a miracle, but we also want your will to be done.
Yeah.
And that was like, when I read that, I was like, man, that's huge. That's huge right there because it's something that we all got to reinforce in our life. Like his will be done because we don't know it all, right?
I couldn't have predicted what I'm doing now, how we're doing it now, 10 years ago. So like, I actually was like, maybe I should read my book again because I haven't I was like, oh, right, I did write that. Oh yeah, we did have that pact. But like you say, and lots of people of faith, that was always my grandmother's prayer was like, God, here's what I want, but like, let your will be done. And his will is the best way for us. And honestly, my husband and I go like, we've often said, could you picture like having Lewiston or him still alive? And there's been so many crazy blessings and adventures and wild things that have happened because of Lewiston losing his life that we're like, we're better for it. And that's really hard to say because as a parent, like no one wants their kid to die.
No.
I mean, no one wants their friend or their family member to die. And I'm always like, when people are surprised by death, I'm like, no one's escaping this life. Like we're all headed for the same spot. We're all gonna die. It's just a matter of time. And so I'm better for it. I wish it looked different. I pictured my life differently, but I'm also so grateful for it because I am better for it. I have a better heart. I'm more compassionate. I'm more gracious. I'm more generous. It changed everything for us.
Wow. That's like when you said that, I was like, man, that's powerful. And I know there's someone out there right now that needed to hear that. And I needed to hear that. And it made me think in the moment of the orange chair, I think, the orange rocking chair.
You really did read the book. You're getting some mad props. Like, I'm like impressed. I
took notes.
He did his homework.
I've never taken notes reading a self-help book, but I was so like pulled into it. And I felt like it was almost a serendipitous moment with what I was going through in life. And I think it was so powerful. And I'm not gassing the book because she's right here. If you're going through a time, you're like, God, what is next? What should I listen to? You need to get this book ASAP because like it's going to show you that you're not alone and you're going to go through moments, but you're going to end up where you're supposed to end up. But it made me think about the orange chair. Oh, was it an orange rocking chair? Like when
it was just an orange, like plastic hospital chair. So no rocking chair.
Maybe I wanted it to be a rocking chair because there was two
soothing.
old people.
Yes.
I was like, they had to be rocking, and your grandma smuggling cookies or whatever. What about that moment really pushed you to like move cities and like all of that stuff? Like could you talk about that moment, seeing that love that you talked about, you know, in that moment when they know your grandpa was, you know, on his way, you know? I want you to just share that moment to the audience for those, and that will be the last juice we'll give you about the book.
He says that, and then
and then
so I had broken up with my boyfriend at the time. We had come back from this big family trip to South Africa, my family and my best friend. And we went to South Africa. And when we were coming home, we knew my grandfather was quite ill. And he had declined quite a bit. We were gone for almost a month, I think. And when we got back, I wasn't working yet, so I had free time. And so I offered to drive my grandma to the hospital. My grandpa was fighting cancer and not doing well. And she never drove her whole entire life. You know, she'd sit in the passenger with holding her little white bag that she had her lifesavers and all her little treats in. And she had carefully wrapped up, it's called plots. It's like a pie, a Mennonite dish. And she'd wrapped it up in wax paper that I'm sure she had reused like 900 times because she didn't waste nothing. And I remember just wanting to give them a moment. And, you know, it's a hospital and they're kind of tight and awkward. But I remember just sitting on this orange plastic chair, and my grandma walked over. I said hi to my grandpa and I sat down. My grandma went over and sat beside him and she goes, "Peter, I snuck you in some plots." You know, he's not supposed to have the plots and the sugar. And I just remember they sat side by side. My grandpa's in one of those, you know, very thin hospital gowns. He's very frail, super pale. He never wore shorts, so his legs were whiter than snow. And they opened up the plots, and then they sat there and they grabbed each other's hands and they bowed in prayer and they thanked God for everything. And I just remember being like, I want that. I want that moment that, like, when the world seems like everything is falling apart, when it feels hopeless, when like your circumstances are out of your control and you don't have a way out and there isn't a cure, I just want to be able to bow my head and give thanks. And they live such a simple yet full life. I could take a lot of lessons from them because I live a very full and abundant and chaotic and wild, and I always like next and more. But in that moment, it changed my heart forever. And it changed how I viewed marriage. It changed how I viewed my circumstances. And so that moment, I was like, God, that's what I'm committing to. That's what I'm waiting for. Somebody that in the midst of the craziest storm and the worst circumstances will give thanks and have gratitude. And so that orange chair changed my life, and I'm forever grateful for it.
Wow, that's huge.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and you told the story so well. I could picture myself watching it too from your perspective. That's so powerful. And I want to flip course because if you keep crying, I'm gonna start crying too, and I'm an ugly crier, so we don't want to have
get
that.
the tissue. Let's see if I can make you cry by the end of it.
Hyperventilating. I'm like, nah, you ain't gonna get me.
My therapist is telling me I need to dip more into my feelings because I don't fully dip in. So it's healthy for us, and then that way they don't manifest in a weird rash on your legs. So it's okay if you cry.
Well, keep that one to yourself. Okay. I'm just playing. I want to talk about the power of routine. You were in the hospice, but you woke up every morning. I was actually going to get you a Starbucks coffee order. I saw it. I was like, I'm going to bring, but I don't know if she's still drinking coffee.
I know. Well, a lot has changed. I actually have a whole thing to write this in my next book about my coffee order and how much my coffee preferences have changed because people know me as that order, which is so cute. But
I'm happy I didn't bring it then because that's changed, right? Yeah. Good. So you were talking about the power of routine, right? You would do your hair, do your makeup, put on some clothes, shower, and have your coffee just so you can still be like you set yourself up for success for that day or to handle life. Could you just speak to the audience about like people going through a hard time, a tough breakup, a business not working out the way they want to, life not going the way they want, the power of still having a strong routine that can set your mood up for a better day?
I love that question. And what I want to encourage people is with routines, it's okay if they change. It's okay if your coffee order changes. It's okay if the routine that you once had, 5 years later, a year later, 6 months later, it's okay if that changes and it doesn't serve you.
Yeah.
And
like Coach House. I did that for a while.
And now you don't? It doesn't serve you?
No. I was like, I don't want to shower like this anymore.
Okay.
The soap don't soap like the way it soaps.
You finish. You're supposed to go hot and then finish with the cold.
I'm just learning that.
Yeah.
I started off with cold right away, so I switched that up. But back to you.
Okay, I'm gonna write down this thought. It's okay. This is me going into my next book here.
Okay.
If your coffee order changes, and here's what I'll say about that is, I think when we talk about routines and we think about how to do it, we look at other people's and we get so caught up on what works for them.
Yeah.
And especially when you talk about social media and all these influences and what we're hearing in the buzz. I mean, like the buzz right now is like, you need creatine, you need 150 grams of protein, like you need cold showers. And it's like, whoa. I want to encourage people to pump the brakes, and I want you to figure out a routine that is best for your blueprint and the circumstances that you're in that moment.
Pump the brakes.
Mm-hmm. Because I can't do what you do for your routine because I'm not you. I'm not your weight. I don't lift the muscle. I don't have 4 kids. I'm not married to your wife. My routine, it's going to look a lot different. I'm on the road now. I have 3 kids. The way I'm wired, what my blueprint and my body needs. But in that moment, what you talk about with routine is I think we need to just pause and go, what are the things that help me show up as the best version of myself?
Yes.
And for me, I mean, I'm not wearing mascara today, which now I'm like, oh, right, I should have remembered the lights and the da-da-da. But like, I got ready today. Yes. And I can get ready and look damn good. Like, I'm like, okay, girl, be bumping. Yeah. And then there's days like today where it's like, Mama has been going since 6:15 with the kids solo while trying to crush her business, make sure her people are where they're supposed to be, had childcare. None of that worked out. But I knew, like, what are the things that help me show up best? And for me, I am ADHD. I take some medication. For me, I know that having a hot cup of coffee with my little collagen protein, I now like my homemade coffee the best. Starbucks has definitely gone down in quality. Sorry to the Starbucks lovers. So I'm glad you didn't waste your $6 or $7 on their burnt roasted coffee.
Ooh.
Yeah. The only time Mama drinks Starbucks now, shots fired. Yeah. They're struggling as a company. It's because they changed the quality of the bean, which works so great because we're also in the coffee business. But there's small.
That's the real back end, eh?
Oh yeah,
They're competitors now.
Well, I am, and I also like go look at their stock and the up and down and how many COs they've gone through. They lost who they were. Yeah. And guess what? There's enough room for all the coffee business players out there.
There we go. Abundant. You switch back to abundant. I saw that.
But the thing is that like there's things that you can do in your day. So for me, the things I knew I needed today to like be my best was like how much water, whatever I had in terms of protein, and these little things like for me actually getting ready, having a shower, washing my face, brushing my teeth. And I'll tell you, when you're in the depths of despair, the last thing you want to do is like get ready. Yes. You want to lay under the covers. You want to stay cozy. Mm-hmm. And if you need to do that for a day, maybe a day or two, but I know from my personality, it is so dangerous not to get ready because I spiral down. And then I live in all of the evidence of like how horrible everything is.
You live in all of the evidence.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
So like, what if you like, okay, I physically am going to make this better. I can shower. I can wash my face. I can brush my teeth. I can make myself look good in the mirror. And so that when I look in the mirror, I'm not like, oh, my life, it's a dumpster fire. But you're like, I feel good. And people say, like, look good, feel good. Like, that is a piece of it of, like, helping yourself show up a little bit better. And so whatever you're going through is know the things that help you show up as the best version of yourselves. And then make sure whatever way you got to make it happen, do the routine, do the things that you do well. And if they're not perfectly done at 6:05, 6:10, 6:15, you execute, that's okay, but still keep doing that, because if you stick to those things, I believe that you can get yourself spiraling upwards. And I want people to spiral up towards joy, not to spiral down towards shame and fear and discouragement. I want them to like go and live. And if the smallest things of just getting ready shifts that momentum for you, keep doing it.
Yes. I love that. You know, small wins, right? It's power of small wins, putting yourself in a position to feel good. And I think bringing it back to fitness, that's one thing it sounds counterproductive, especially if someone is a weight loss client and they're like, I want to lose weight, then I'll get the nice clothes. I always tell them, get some good workout gear now. Get some nice shoes that you can work out with. You would be more excited, more willing to go on that walk, more willing to go on to that class.
Dude, do you see these?
I saw those.
Did you see these?
I saw those.
Okay,
I saw
these and I was like, okay, they're yellow and that's the color joy and that's like part of my brown, the orange. I was like, but then I put my foot into them and I'm like, if you want to go walk, I'll go walking with you.
You can float with those.
Because I can't go. But it's true. There's something about like feeling like you're ready.
Yes.
Then you let go of the hesitation and the excuses and you take action. This is so funny. I was going to film a reel on this. And it's like, you want to change momentum? Wear running shoes in your house.
Yes.
You can get housework done triple the amount of time. Like I'm flying and people can't keep up to me.
Yeah. It's so funny you said that. I used to always wear regular, Jordans or whatever, whenever we go to Callaway Park or the zoo with the kids.
Yeah.
And I would hate the experience because my feet would start hurting.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to walk too long. So I switched it up to running shoes. And I love it. I'm moving, more momentum. Yeah, let's go. But that is a little tip for people out there that like, I want to get started on my fitness journey. Yeah. You don't have to run to the gym. Just get new shoes, right? Moral of the story, right?
Yeah.
The next question I got for you, and this is a very important one because, there are many people. Grief is different, right? It doesn't have to be something as deep or, like as you went through. It could be all right. I had an interview and it didn't go the way I planned. Now I have to grieve that opportunity. You talked about things to do, like things people were doing. I love that list, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna keep that in mind. If someone is going through a hard time, and do you know what? I didn't apply it. I didn't apply it this week. And I was like, I should have gone back to that page and referenced those key things. Could you just share a few without spoiling?
Well, I'll spoil anything. If they don't want to buy the book, they don't want to buy the book. I'll give them the information here. Okay, so what's the specific question you want? Like,
so how do I help someone going through grief?
Okay, I love that.
And support them.
So I'm going to grab this because this is a really good part. The chapter that I wrote was Leave the Chili at Home. I think that's what you're talking about.
The chili at home. Yeah.
And I thought it was really flipping good because I was like, when you're in grief, and here's what I know, like everything was done with love. And I believe that people's hearts were in the right spot.
Yes.
I mean, there was a few selfish people who were like, really? What's happening?
You want to take that picture with your hair done? Wait a second. Let me get the right angle.
Yeah. But the Leave the Chili at Home was so many people want to rush and help. And so everyone brings a pot of chili. And I'm like, thank goodness for Uber Eats and DoorDash and Skip and all these amazing apps that there's so many more creative things that we can do. And I've learned about Buddha bowls and, breaking down a taco kit and fun things that you can do for meals. But when someone is walking through grief, the very first thing I want to encourage you to do is if you have an idea, if there's something you want to do, just go do it. Stop. The reason why people don't take action is like, but I didn't want to hurt you. I didn't want to offend you. I didn't want to bring it up again. I didn't want to. And I think if your heart's in the right spot that like you just want to go help someone, then don't wait for permission. Just go do the thing. So it's like, that's the number one thing I tell people because I don't think that there's a list of like right or wrong.
Back to the nudges again, right?
Yeah.
Listening to your nudge.
It's like, I wanted to check in, but I didn't want to bring up the grief thing because it's been 2 months since your mom died and I meant to message you a month and a half ago, but I didn't. And now it feels like no, just do the thing. And so take action on the nudge. And then I came up with a bunch of creative things like checking in on anniversaries and dates with the people that are really close. Pop those into your Google Calendar, your iCal, so that you can remember that. I had a friend that on the 22nd of each month, she followed up with me and said, hey, I know today must be really hard because Lewiston would be, you would have this milestone with him. And she checked in with me. And that was really, really meaningful. That's when a lot of people, like in the first week or two, everyone's there. But I'm like, it's the aftermath when it lingers. And even with the loss of a job, like a month or two later after, it's like, oh, I'm so sorry, and then it gets brushed under the rug. And people forget that we still might be grieving that loss of a dream or loss of the promotion or loss of some finances.
Yes.
So checking in with people. And then there's all these practical things of just like, do they need help in an area? And if they need help, just show up. I always say to people like, hey, you want to help, it's like, hey, I can go mow your lawn. Is Tuesday or Thursday better? Be really specific, because when you just say, hey, let me know if I can do anything, often when we're in grief, we are so consumed by the grief that we don't have clarity to ask for what we need.
Oh, wow. That's deep. We got to clip that and watch that over again, because I think that could help a lot of people and could bring more joy into the world, you know.
Sing it.
That's awesome.
Is that right, Beryl? Does that look good? Yeah. You can see it in the frame so people know to buy it.
Yeah. In terms of, you know, grief and all of that, like, how did you keep that vision alive of, you talked about, you know, traveling, which is what you're doing right now, being a CEO, a boss girl, you know, you always had that vision. How did you keep that vision, that fire keep burning, dealing with what you dealt with life, right? How did you do that, and what would you advise someone that, you know, I had this vision for my life and being the CEO and doing this in my life? What could you share with the audience and how to go through something like that?
I had a dream and a vision to become the CEO of like a Fortune 500 company.
Yeah.
So, you know, I'd have this big entourage and all these people and assistants, and we were going to move to the States and, you know, big glamorous life, and I was going to be important. And then I was working at a global software company and I absolutely hated it. And I saw how it was run and I was like, hey, this isn't for me. And then Lewiston happened, where I got pregnant with my second child really close after my first. Oh. And that flipped all of my plans around. But in this, I think my heart has always just been to like, I want to help inspire, to help make other people better.
Yes.
And I want them to be the best version of themselves and to like unlock and find the fullness. And whether that's the CEO of a Fortune 500 company, or I'm just the random lady at a grocery store that is like giving you a high five and telling you to go have an awesome day, that like cares enough about somebody that they feel seen in that moment. It doesn't matter the position. And so I've made peace with that. But like I mentioned, I'm ADHD neurodivergent. And so my brain is always seeking out dopamine. And my superpower would be that part of, I think, why I've gone about and been able to make things happen is because I can visualize it and see it in my mind. The crazy part is it doesn't always happen exactly the way that I thought it would.
Yeah.
And for me, this is like totally different. I've always wanted to be a speaker. So in one sense, it's like, oh, well, this is exactly how it's meant to be. My story and the vehicle and the stories that I tell aren't based on, you know, me taking over a company and driving a team of 5,000, 10,000 companies and seeing the revenue drive by 27%. It's in the small little gestures and accomplishments that we've made through a foundation in honor of my son who's passed in a different way. And so what I would just encourage people is like, you have a dream and a vision, and if, again, that dream and a vision comes from a nudge, don't give up on it just because the way you think it should go doesn't happen. I think it could look totally different, and it'll probably turn out even better than you anticipated. And for me, I have this amazing freedom and flexibility with my kids.
Yes.
For me, I'm helping my husband build his dream. For me, I can run a charity and run my business and do all these other random crazy things in between.
Wow.
And so I thought it was supposed to be like this. I think that's why we all get jammed up. It's like, it's got to look like this. It's got to be this way. And then when it doesn't, you're like, oh, guess it's not meant to be. It's not going to happen. And then we just settle. And like we stay in a coast mode, or we're in denial that, it's never going to happen. It didn't happen. And it's like, okay, well, what if it could be even better? And so I would just encourage you, if the path that you're on isn't leading to where you think it would go, just stay curious. And I was talking
curious.
Yeah, I was talking with Caitlin, and the biggest thing that I always talk to people from stage when you're stuck in your circumstances and you're like, why me? Why is this happening again? Why haven't we had the breakthrough? Why am I struggling with these difficult clients? I thought I would have been further along. How come that company's growing, but we can't grow as fast? Whatever it is.
Yeah.
The question that I've stopped asking, because I do this too in myself, why is that speaker getting more jobs? Why is that speaker getting to go on that cool stage? Why?
Yeah.
And the question I got to ask myself is, so now what? So now what? And that's where you're in control, and you take the next steps on it.
So now what? I love that. That's so empowering. And that leads me to my final question. The whole book about nudges, we just talked about the nudges of stay curious, right? And then, so now what, when it's not going, what are the nudges you're feeling for you right now in your season of life? What is next for Jessica?
It's so funny because I've wanted to write my next book and I just keep making excuses because I'm like, I'm waiting for a publishing deal. I don't have enough money to do it. It's too complicated. I have to have editors because I can't stay, just like you name the excuse, I have come up with it. And to have someone speak so like excited and passionately and actually have read the book, not just like pump it, like you read the book.
Oh, I read it.
You read the book.
Yeah.
And I get this feedback and it's like, oh, you got more stories to share, just like practical, simple wisdom. And I think my superpowers is like, I shared a very horrible thing that I said in the book about handicapped kids. Yeah. And I shared that openly because I think we've all had those moments.
Yes.
And I want people to see that like you can be a mess, you can make a mess, but you can still recover, you can still move forward, and you can still have an abundant, great life, even if you didn't get it right the first time. I think we're in a society and a culture of cancel culture where it's like, oh, they messed up. So it's like, no, can't follow them. Oh, no. And then so we just like, we're even too scared to try because we're afraid if we mess up and someone calls it on it, then we can't move on. And so I'm in this season where I've got 1,000,001 dreams, but I think the next biggest one is taking massive action on my book and just saying, in the moments of I don't know the how, of having the belief that like you just got to go do the thing, stop waiting. Because I've been waiting. I've been waiting for the right amount of finance. I've been waiting for the right publisher. I've been waiting for the right book deal. I've been waiting for somebody to be like, you have to write the next thing. We saw you on this podcast and your book has to come out. And like, it's not happening. And I'm like, it's 6 years later. It's like,
I'm waiting for that book.
Okay, well.
I read this and I'm waiting for it.
And it's called The Hard Work of Joy. I have the outline. I have all the things. I'm like, one of those chapters, it's like, it's okay if your coffee order changes. I'm like, oh, that's the next chapter. I can already see all the things. And so it'll be a book and it'll continue to do the work that I get to do, which I'm so grateful for, which is traveling the world and speaking on stages and connecting with audiences so that they know in whatever hard they're walking through, they're not alone, and you can come out of it and bring the joy to whatever you face, because life is too short to just play small.
Yes, life is too short to play small. So I just want to close the podcast with this, Jessica. When you spoke about you want to let people know that they could be a mess, they can go through life and not be perfect and make a lot of mistakes and still change and still go through recovery and be better and do better. That was literally what I experienced and got from the book. And that's why I was so pulled to it. I was like, wow, she's so honest. She wasn't perfect. You know, you're perfect.
No,
but she wasn't perfect.
No, like I know what you mean. Like it's like her life. It was a dumpster fire a lot of the time. I was like,
she's putting her business out there heavy. I'm like, why are you dragging Ronnie's business out there? I hope he co-signed for it.
He did. Like, I had to get everyone to co-sign for it. Jeff, Carlos, all the people, because I was like, hey, I'm gonna tell
Carlos,
the truth.
Oh wow,
they had to sign
good
off.
For you.
Yeah.
Wow. But like, just the transparency and then still seeing the great impact you're doing with Love for Lewiston right now. It was so impactful, and I cannot wait to read your next book and we can talk about it on the show. So thank you so much for being on the show. Thanks for coming here, making the time, and until next time, keep pushing. Let's go.
Thank you. I'm so honored to be here. You're amazing, and I'm so grateful for the time today. And thank you for letting me share my message. It means the world.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Awesome.